I spoke to Mihaela Carstei, Deputy Director of the Energy and Environment at the Atlantic Council, and asked her if the solar panel deal is a win-win.
I'd call it a win-win, just in the larger context of resolving trade disputes. Being a win-win, finally reaching that answer. You know, we've got other trade disputes between the EU and China, and finally the largest one in monetary terms got resolved. It really makes everyone unhappy, so it must be a good deal.
I mean, who's unhappy? Who doesn't like this deal? You say someone's unhappy. I mean, why are people unhappy about the deal?
So let's look at Europe. You've got losers on the side of manufacturing in Europe. Obviously, German manufacturers, which used to dominate even the global market, cannot compete at such a low price. You also have losers on the Chinese side. You have very large companies in China that can compete at this price and are shooting for higher quality, better products that can ultimately ensure they have a global market. But the smaller companies, in this whole restructuring of the Chinese industry, the smaller companies are losing out.
Let me sort of highlight the deal here, because they're setting a rate of 56 euro cents per gigawatt. That's going to be a cap on the price that Chinese manufacturers can sell. Now, European...
A minimum cap.
The minimum. Now, the European folks, they wanted a higher number.
The manufacturers, yes.
The manufacturers wanted a higher number. The other side of the deal is the amount of sales that are able to be done. Currently, roughly 7 gigawatts of materials being sold, and they're saying they're going to cap it at that. So essentially, for the Chinese side, the only impact is they're going to sell their solar panel equipment at a higher price. Am I reading this correctly?
Yes, at a higher price.
So obviously it's good for them.
It's good for the Chinese manufacturers, for those that can compete at the European standard.
How is this good for Europe?
The European developers and installers still have access to cheaper Chinhinese panels that are high quality. So the bulk of the labor force in Europe...
But they're still going to pay more.
That's okay, because the bulk of the labor force, you have to look at the alternatives, not at the dumping price or so-called dumping price, but at the price that would have resulted after the tariffs that the EU was discussing of imposing on Chinese solar panels. So looking at that case, this deal actually is better. It's a higher price they would have hoped for, and the installers and developers are definitely complaining about it.
I suppose perhaps they're happy that at least they can get this uncertainty out of the way.
Exactly. It really was meant to remove the uncertainty in the market and to stop the damage done either by dumping prices or by the tariffs imposed in response to low prices, whichever way they would be perceived dumping or not.
I want to bring the discussion back here to Washington, D.C. In 2012, during the election cycle, there was a lot of talk in the United States with China regarding the specific issue of solar panels. The U.S. has been surprisingly quiet in this dispute with Europe and China. What do you think the U.S. is thinking?
I think the first reaction was, oh my God, what just happened, as the U.S. was definitely trying to work with the EU and China to reach sort of a trilateral agreement. And seeing the EU move without the U.S. on this issue, especially given the importance of the TTIP negotiations between the U.S. and the EU, I think it caught the whole U.S. administration by surprise. I don't think it made anybody happy, because now they still have to deal with their own trade issues, with the U.S.-China trade issues. So I don't think this was a positive step from the Washington perspective.
Do you think Europe just believed that it'd be easier just to do a deal with China and keep the U.S. out of it for now to get this deal behind them?
Frankly, I feel that this was an example of various countries within the EU exerting a stronger political influence. Germany, UK, I feel were sort of the leaders. For different reasons, UK was worried that prolonged tariffs would hurt a free market, and this deal would sort of get everyone there faster.